focus on the jungle, on the top lane, a little bit on the AD carry role. We keeping the Varus away from King, and the Graves away from Napon. Ashe going to be the second AD carry, banned away by the Red Canids. That, along with Varus, kept away from King, keeping him off those longer range jams.
Yeah, our champion select is a little bit ahead. We could actually predict it's going to be an Ashe. Boom. Nailed it.
Nailed it completely.
Oh, on the other side for the Direwolves, though, they still have one final ban here. And it looks like we can see that it is the Shen already. The Shen actually nerfed on 7.8 quite a bit here, which is interesting because that champion, it still has the global pressure, it still has the ability to protect the AD carry composition, but there are still things like Ivern and like Lulu that exist. And the top lane Shen is kind of one of those things that's like a catch-all.
And you just said it, Ivern still exists, and the Red Canids going to recognize that and capitalize on it real quick here, blocking that in before anything else, but that does leave the Lulu open. So Direwolves are going to grab that one first for themselves.
And the Direwolves, we've talked about how they have an aggressive bottom lane that's mechanically proficient with King and Destiny. And so now they have Lulu and Caitlyn locked in as their first two picks to try and take away the Caitlyn-Ivern synergy. But they also took away the Lulu, which kind of has some parallels here with things like Karma, where you can take the Karma in the mid lane, or Karma in the support position, and make sure that you have something that can shield an AD carry. So expecting something like the Karma to come through here for the Red Canids, lest it be banned away later on.
Syndra hovered and now locked in for Talkers. Talking about him playing those control mages, having that long range ability, the ability to protect zones, protect his own teammates. You can definitely do that on a Syndra. You threaten completely destroying anybody that comes even remotely close to you. And talking about the Ivern as well for Napon. Napon is a player who doesn't exactly shine through making these huge mechanical outplays or just 1v1ing his opponent all the time. He's a player who has very surprising pathing. He contributes to the team well. Playing a champion like Ivern is exactly up his alley.
Yeah, Ivern is a champion that is incredibly annoying to deal with. Doesn't really have a parallel, but it's all about routing. It's all about making sure that you understand where your enemy is going to be, heading them off, and playing around your team. And we see the Thresh locked in for Dude. Signature pick for this guy who lands death sentence after death sentence, played it in the finals multiple times, and really went off to the point where he's a big playmaker for the team. If he could step up here, they could definitely have a good match here against the Direwolves.
And I love seeing that confidence in the first game of the MSI play-ins. You lock in the comfort pick. Even if it might not be the #1 pick in the meta, you're saying this is how we win, and this is how we're going to find the win right here. While Fantix and the Direwolves respond with the Vladimir pickup for the mid lane.
Yeah, Vladimir is interesting because when we think about counters to Syndra, Fizz, Echo jump to mind, but also though Vladimir is considered a bit of a counter to the Syndra, there is a way for Syndra to win the lane because she'll win it early. You have to win it really hard, potentially take Ignite. But it is a matchup where the Vladimir can definitely thrive in it as well and then be somebody that doesn't get blown up by the Syndra.
Into the second part of the ban phase here, and the Direwolves have focused all their attention onto BRTT. Kog'Maw and Twitch banned away, while in response, the Red Canids going to put all their focus onto Schernfire, taking Lee and Elise out of the pool.
Get some playmakers out of there. They already have the Graves banned away. Rengar was nerfed in terms of damage, so you might see something a little bit more, like that, like the Gragas coming through here for the two teams. For Direwolves, because the Lee Sin, definitely a great pick for Schernfire. It's something that I remember him playing even over here in the North American Challenger Series and having a good time on. And the Elise was also another champion. Nidalee was up there too, but you want him on those playmakers. So Gragas, a potential flex pick for jungle and top lane. But we'll see what BRTT goes with here. The Jinx being hovered would be a hyper carry that hasn't been played much, but it is something that can benefit immensely from having an escape from the Thresh and the protection of the Ivern.
And we're going to see that locked in, recognizing that synergy right here, right now, picking that one up for his team. Going to be a massive backline threat if this game is allowed to go on long enough for him to farm up and get those items he needs for that champion to reach hyper carry status. One more pick to go on the side of the Red Canids. Still need a top laner in this lineup.
See what happens. There have been a lot of champions that have had small changes. For example, Jinx had a small change where her Flame Chomper's at max range. Max rank is actually 6 seconds off of the cooldown, so her late game is even better in terms of self-peel. And the Jarvan being locked in here, we've seen some top lane Jarvan. It's become popular lately with a W max first, the Golden Aegis, where if the person has 2,500 HP, that's actually the break point where you actually get more shielding from them than you did previously per target. So if you have 2,500 HP, which you're typically building some tankiness, you'll actually get more, because now it's % of Jarvan's maximum health per champion hit, as opposed to a base.
with that Jarvan locked in. That's kind of exactly the type of pick we were expecting from Robo, to be quite honest. An aggressive player, a player who plays a lot of different champions. So if you're going to put those two traits together, Jarvan pretty much fits the bill, exactly what you need. And the final pick on the side of the Direwolves is going to be that top lane Olaf for Chippies.
We prefaced it a little bit. The Olaf for the top laner here. Chippies, kind of a quiet guy, like we had said. Definitely boosted his confidence, but he plays things like the Fizz. He'll play the Rumble, the Camille, but the Olaf seems to be something he's gone towards here. A champion that hasn't been touched in a very long time with buffs or nerfs.
Now, curiously, do you think he sticks with the Flash on this Olaf? Normally we do see the Ghost on the Olaf.
I think so.
But the Flash will get you out of the Jarvan
Exactly, because having played a lot of Jarvan back in the day, you loved seeing Olafs that ran Ghost in the jungle, because you know that he's just going to be a sitting duck after you use the ultimate. So I think that's a good choice there. It's not like the one that you would typically go for, but I definitely think you stick with the Flash.
Well, he is going to be sticking with that one as we load in here to Summoner's Rift for the first time for MSI 2017. Should be an interesting show between these two teams. The compositions alone have got me excited for this one. You've got comfort picks, you've got surprise picks, you've got different picks that you don't really get to see throughout the regular split. This is fun, man.
I love it. This is one of the reasons to tune in and watch these types of things, because where are you going to see a Jinx? We haven't really seen one in North America. The Thresh coming out, then the Jarvan top has become a little bit more popular. Then the Olaf top, nowhere in sight for us here in NA. So absolutely love these guys kind of bringing out all the stops. And this is, like we said, best of one. So you're definitely drafting something that is top tier for you.
You're not exactly picking this thing to think, okay, we're going to take it easy in game number 1, and then we'll win in games number 2 and 3 if it goes bad. You're not having one of those just adapt and see what they do games. You've got to just come out the gate swinging and get in there and get that win right here, right now. You can see the fans going crazy in the crowd. Excited for this game number 1 to get underway between the Canids and the Direwolves as we load into Summoner's Rift for the first time. Already on to it, 50 seconds in. You can see the red Canids slightly past the river point, laying down a couple of wards, keeping an eye on that Razorbeak camp.
And we'll talk about the compositions here for a second, because red, they have a little bit of protection with the fact that they have Ivern. They also have the Thresh to give a move block, a way for the Jinx to move away from things, a kind of an escape tool. But then they have Talkers, who's in a position where he did take the Ignite, not the Ghost, so he can try and beat the mid laner of Fantix on that Vladimir, try to win that 1v1, but then roam around, possibly get some kills. It will be a little difficult, though, because they have a Vladimir who has a lot of HP, and then they also have a Lulu who can help save people. So red, they're looking for a little bit in terms of hyper carry, but also some pick potential here as well.
You know what, Zirene? I really love those nerfs we did to Exhaust, because it just makes everybody take Ignite now, and you get so much more action, so much more kill potential when both supports are running Ignite, when both mid laners are running Ignite. Expect to see them trying to make some plays just all over the place this game.
Yeah, and right there we just saw it got checked, so Surenfire is on that Raptor camp. They saw him with the ward. We'll see what happens for Napon here, because he might go to his Raptors, and there's potential for him to go to the enemy blue buff, but I don't think he'll risk it here in this first game. Used his smite on the Raptors, not on a blue buff camp or anything like that at the start. You can see Talkers and Fantix just going back and forth, already just trading very heavily.
Blow after blow with the auto attacks, both going to be taken down to about 200 HP, but of course, those constant trades favor Vladimir. He likes to be able to heal back up, use those transfusions, get his health back up.
Yeah, but you want to, that's the thing, is the constant trades, but it has to be constant at a certain rate where he doesn't have that few seconds to start sustaining himself up. It has to be really actually constant. Whereas the Syndra, now you're kind of damaging her mana pool as a Vladimir. You're trying to out-sustain her. If she runs out of mana, she's absolutely no threat to you, so you just kind of keep trading HP for Syndra mana for the early parts of the game over and over again. He bought multiple potions and boots so he can try and get through that war of attrition at the beginning of the game for lane dominance.
No counter jungling coming out from the Ivern just yet. You already mentioned it earlier, likely not going to see that in game number 1. Robo pushed onto his back foot here in the top lane, but you can kind of expect that as another melee champion up against an Olaf early on. The constant ability to hit the undertows over and over and over again is very scary if you get into a 1v1. Usually you have to sort of yield that lane to him early. Robo's going to take a couple of trades back and forth there with him. Get a decent amount of damage, but at the same time, there's a lot of minions there, so yeah, probably best to just stay defensive. Keystone Mastery's popping up there on the bottom part of your screen. You can see the grasp for the Jarvan, while the Fervor on the Olaf means he's going to be doing a lot more damage if these fights go on.
Yeah, and if he has that sustained fight where he can just auto-attack you, the lower he gets, the faster he swings, just ends up stacking up very quickly. And the fact that Fervor actually just gives flat attack damage now instead of previously it used to just be, hey, you got some bonus on hit damage. This actually benefits his Reckless Swing and will convert damage into true damage for him. So he gets even more true damage the lower he gets.
Plus it also buffs the undertows. Pretty much everything.
Exactly. Very, very auto attack based, but also spellcastery in a sense, where he's already actually forced Robo back from throwing a whole bunch of axes at him, making sure that he's pushed out of the lane.
Robo will get back, manage to grab a cloth armor and a long sword as he makes his way back up here utilizing the TP. To see what Chippies decides to buy for his first back, just grabbing himself a ruby crystal for the time being. Don't know if he's going to be able to pick up anything else. Does grab the long sword as he now TPs himself back into lane. Continues to be in a good spot. Fantix taken very low. Sanguine Pool to make sure he escapes a death that would otherwise come his way.
Yep, and now Fantix will not back off here because there's no mana on Talkers. Like I said, you're just attacking the mana pool over and over again. He got a summoner spell. Fantix is actually still up a little bit in terms of CS here. He's got almost 10 up, and he's up in levels. So this is actually working out quite well for him as he'll continue to sustain back up. But
Destiny's in some trouble. First blood over to Diud. BRTT seeing if he might be able to chase anything else down. Not going to find it so far, but man, they got him overextended there.
That looks like it was a hook underneath the turret to possibly get him. Dude blows the ignite as well. And I absolutely loved the little MSI feature that we did, the Eyes on MSI, where Dude constantly getting praised for his death sentences and how much they're landing here. And you can see that was a minion there previously. BRTT hit it to last hit it, and then he actually flays him into the chompers and into the turret range. No chance to flash there for Destiny, who still has that up.
Very well done coming out from the duo from the Red Canids, showcasing what they can do with those mechanical talents in a 2v2. Schernfire and Nippon going to find each other here on the top side. Robo makes his way over, utilizing that Ivern Q. Get himself in range, but Schernfire gets himself out utilizing the Blast Cone, but isn't exactly better for the whole situation. Takes a little bit more damage than he would have liked to.
Yeah, and now he kind of has to back here unless he's going to go for a repeat gank on the top side, because there's no jungle camps for him to clear on the northern side of the jungle. So he'll route towards the bottom and then just try to lick his wounds and recover from that little move. Right now, though, Dude going for a roam play, potentially on mid. You can see that Napon is coming from the other side, so Dude's going to try to push him to the left, whereas Napon's going to come in. There's the stun. There's the root.
Done. Here comes the root. Death Sentence not going to be finding the mark. Pool is used. Hemo Play going to be coming down. Still need a little bit more damage, and Talkers has got it. 2-0 for the Red Cannon.
That's what I was talking about. This Thresh for Dude is so potent, so good. He's able to roam and really change the pace of the game. The Thresh Death Sentences that he goes for in lane, there was a line in the Eyes on MSI where it's like, do not go for the Death Sentence unless it's going to be a kill. Don't do it for harass, because if you miss, it doesn't matter. Go for the kill. And that's what he's been doing here. He's been going for the kill in that bottom side, got one, and then was able to roam. And here comes Schernfire.
You tossing down the lantern to keep BRTT safe. BRTT also has to flash away. The trigger seed from Ivern doing enough to keep him alive ever so barely. BRTT gets out.
And that's why they love this Thresh again for Dude, because of the fact that he can save BRTT on things like the Kog'Maw, the Twitch even, the Jinx, where he doesn't have his own escape. And a lot of the power budget of those champions is spent in not having an escape. And when you can get it from another champion, it ends up being pretty brutal if it gets ahead.
And that's exactly what you mentioned in Champion Select when you talked about BRTT hovering this Jinx, picking up this hyper carry. When you've got enablers like that, it's an awesome pick. The synergy between the champions allows it to scale, allows it to get to the point where it doesn't matter if it's meta. It doesn't matter if it might struggle against things that would normally shut it down early, because you can get past that utilizing your team set.
Yeah, and then you get to the point where you can start resetting off of kills. Also looks like he's going for a Blade of the Ruined King build here, possibly a Blade of the Ruined King into a Hurricane. Incredibly popular build right now for AD carries. It's funny because everybody's like, ah, man, Blade of the Ruined King's so great because it diversified AD carry builds. Now everybody does it. Now everybody's got People were just sick of the lethality builds, and now they're like, yeah, I love it. Well, it also diversified the number of AD carries that you could play. You just kind of build a lot of them the same now.
That's true. There are more, even though they all build Borg, at least there's 5 or 6 of them instead of Jhin and Varus.
We will take that.
Yeah, I will take that over the Jhin and Varus meta every day.
Yeah, no problem. And look at this. Because of the early kill, Talkers now has a big advantage in that mid lane. He was down 10 CS. Now he's up a bit here. Granted, there is a wave to be taken, but at the same time, he does have his Ignite back, and he has complete coverage. And on the 8th minute, let there be sound.
We've got sound!
Let there be sound.
We've got game sound, boys. My senses are no longer deprived.
I don't know if anybody else was in that situation or if that was going out to live, but
yeah, we're not sure, but we haven't had sound for the past 8 minutes, but now that we do, oh man, it's a whole new experience here for MSI 2017 as the Red Canids currently lead their opponents by about 1,000 gold, having a very solid early game so far. Double buffs on Talker's Syndra means he's scarier than ever, just pushing these waves up, maintaining control over the mid lane.
I was talking to Inori on the desk for the finals. He's talking about how Ivern is just so good because you will always have buffs on your laners. The sustain from the red buff for your mana, the sustain for your HP from the red buff, depends on who you give it to, but he's like, it's pretty broken because you aren't actually sacrificing your early buffs to go ahead and give somebody like a top laner a lane advantage.
Yeah, they're just a bonus. Pass it off, spread the wealth, enjoy the fun. It's fun for everybody except the enemy who has to play against it, because as you can see right now, Fantic's just zoned away, even underneath his own turret. Can't find any sense of safety.
And I really, really like this because Talker's, he's constantly pushing this Vladimir matchup and making sure that the Syndra can bully. And I talked about how Vladimir will eventually kind of rubber band back into the game with his late game. You have to keep the pressure on. You have to keep him under his turret. And the fact that the Syndra gets a blue buff early on is huge. He would have gotten it regardless if it was Ivern or not. But now he has somebody who helps him siege, gets under the turret. That turret, very close to going down. It's actually going to go down before Surenfire could actually make contact, so they lose it.
Big stuff from the Red Canids, grabbing the turret first blood for themselves, taking that gold lead up to about 2K. Sitting very pretty as Surenfire moves towards the top end of the map, taking down the Scuttle Crab to secure a little bit more control in this area. Might be looking towards top again, but the last time this happened, it didn't go too well for him. Chippy's pretty much has this under control. With Robo underneath the turret the entire time, there's not a lot of plays Shurn can make.
Yeah, Chippy, because he's aggressive, doesn't mean you get to gank that lane, though. It means you'd have to go for a tower dive. We saw Surenfire come around where he was at the blast cone previously, right below where the screen is now, and he got caught by Napon there. So he was trying to go for a potential dive onto Robo because they're saying this is a lane that we can punish, but it has that inherent risk of you're going for a dive. It is definitely risky, and against the Jarvan who can lock you up and then run away, we'll see here.
Chippy's trying to start this off and make it happen. Damage comes in, and the shield's going to keep him alive. Over aggro from Chippy's.
Looks like Robo got some heal there and was able to actually have extra shield on top of it. No chance there for Chippies, who went aggro when Surenfire wasn't there, but Napon definitely smelled that one coming.
That was an audacious move from Chippies, just trying to punish that, noticing that the flag and drag was down after Robo tried to get Chippies stuck under the turret. Chippies thought that was a green light, but that was not what he was hoping would happen from that one. You can hear the crowd just going wild for the Canids.
And that's the thing too, is if you screw up that dive and you hear the crowd chant that heavily, you got to start thinking, oh man, what was I doing? What was I doing? And you can't let that get to you. You have to recover. Look at that, though.
Talker's in a really bad spot. Going to be polymorphed and beaten down as he tries to come around behind the Direwolves, and they get themselves on the board.
Yep, inherent risk of going for a dive. And this is a team that you didn't shove fast enough to have that wave under the turret. That didn't hit at the right time. That's some missed timing there between the roam of Talkers and also when VRTT and Dude were having the wave push up. Because if a Thresh is much closer, there's a way for him to save. There's potential for him to see the Gragas coming, but they weren't that far up. They actually played it still a little bit too safe.
And Dude's Thresh right now, he's got the Sightstone, he's got the Boots of Mobility, he's got multiple control wards. The early successes that he found with the kills and the assists and the roams have given him the early support economy he needs to be really, really effective.
Yeah, if he can get out of lane and leave the Jinx to be self-sufficient, then there's a possibility. But remember the last time he left, there was an Ignite on BRTT who almost went down and had to blow his summoners to get away. So might be a little scarred of, hey, you know, the Jinx is the hyper carry here. Let's keep her in lane, scale a little bit, and not get completely shoved in.
One thing I do want to point out, you did see it cast as Talkers was in some trouble, but Napon already has Redemption completed on this Ivern. Big team fight item for these guys.
So he hit the plant. They know he's there, but Chippies didn't get to see the Ivern, so this might be an engage.
Robo going for it, seeing if he can lock this guy down, gets the knock up, a little bit more damage. Decides to go for that Demacian. Oh, she's in the ring! Cataclysm comes in, Daisy's into the ring, and they are going to beat him down. Napon grabbing the kill.
He actually just tagged Daisy in. She leaps right into the ring. And she's ready for the smackdown there.
WWE style. This is great.
Oh, that was beautiful. But that's the Red Canids getting off to a 4-1 lead, and they're going to get this top turret as well. I got to say, Napon talked about his jungle pathing and how he's so smart. He saw the Scryer's Bloom hit. It didn't see him, and then that's where Robo went in, started being aggressive on Chippies, who had been constantly winning that matchup. But hold on, Talkers going to go
Oh,
Get dove.
Talker's in some serious trouble here, trying to make the flash into the outplays, but can't quite do it. The ult and ignite will not be enough to burn away Fantix, who grabs himself his first kill of the game. That's 2 for the Direwolves, but they lose that top lane turret that you mentioned, and they're still down almost 3,000 gold, despite grabbing the kill on that enemy mid laner. Although that will give Fantix some breathing room.
Yes, absolutely. Gives him some breathing room, and whenever you give the Vladimir some breathing room in this matchup, it definitely alleviates a whole bunch of it. It's those volatile matchups where it'll go either way. The Syndra has to stay on top, has to stay in a position where she does enough damage for how much mana she's spending, and doing that constantly to get the Vladimir low. Now she doesn't have summoner spells, which is a benefit for the Vladimir, even though he doesn't have his. I definitely think not having the ignite up or the flash is beneficial for the Vladimir in this matchup, because there's no real kill potential unless there's a gank.
We're starting to see more items come online, Zirene. Blade of the Ruined King finished for King. BRTT has enough money in his inventory to complete his whenever he decides to go back and shop, which is looking to be right about now. Proto Belt and Morello Nomicon for Vlad and Syndra, respectively. Top laners still sort of working on theirs, falling a little bit behind the curve, but that's because they're also branching out into a couple different pieces, going for the Tiamat for the Jarv and the Tabbies for the Olaf. Fantix, although he's lost his turret, although he's been kind of on his back foot, you can see his farm's not really suffering for it. 125 compared to the 123 of the Syndra, doing a good job making sure he stays relevant. And as you mentioned with the rubber band, as the game goes on, we get into those mid-game team fights, those late-game team fights, he's going to be very scary.
Yeah, very, very scary. And the fact that he has a Lulu to speed him up to get him in, it's kind of like when you'd see Karma compositions with the Vladimir, but the Vladimir has some form of aid that helps him get into the backline, get his Storm Raider surge off, and then allows him to kind of go from there with the ease and the constant damage that he'll be throwing out. Bottom lane, though, this is tricky because looks like Red setting up for a Cloudbreaker potential bottom dive, but you can see there's just wards littered everywhere around this area.
Vision all over the place will be cleared out by the Red Canids, who maintain control over the area.
Nice.
Pop that blast cone. You always see teams like to do that these days. Now that everybody's used to having plants in the game and playing around them, popping the blast cones, stealing the Scryer's blooms whenever you can, very important to properly maintaining control over an area.
Yeah, if you're a support, your first roam, once you shove in, about maybe 2 minutes, 3 minutes, you go up, walk forward into his jungle, ward over his blue, and then kill his blast cone, because that's one of those unique routes that gets you in. It means you have to spend more wards, or put a ward in a place that gives you less reaction time. You put one in that bush, then it might be too late by the time he's actually in that bush.
Red Canids, mid lane and jungle, still hanging around this Drake pit, but not doing a whole lot with it just yet. BRTT pushed up. You can see the red side control ward from the Direwolves back into the tri-brush behind these guys. Teleport is up for Chippies.
It is an Olaf teleport, though, and it would be pretty difficult without a ghost to actually track them down or run them down. Going for the Trinity Force? Question mark?
Really?
Okay. I was slightly baited because
I thought it was a Black Cleaver, yeah. Because you see the... Oh. Either way, King going to be brought very low. Wild Growth gets alive, and a super mega death rocket sends him straight down. 5-2 for the Red Canids.
He had flash. He had heal. He used neither of them there to actually
thought it wouldn't be enough.
I don't know if he saw the rocket flying at his face. That's one of those things that takes you an extra second to react to, and the fact that he was also playing against the Jinx.
Ah, boom.
Who does that?
Who does that, man? Who plays against Jinx in 2017?
Yeah.
Well, unfortunately for the Direwolves, they are, and that Jinx gun is just making mincemeat out of this tier 2 turret. They'll shoot that one down, go up to 4-0 in turret count. And the Red Canids are definitely doing their hometown proud.
Absolutely. And now, gonna swap it up. We'll see the backs come through. Assume they'll go towards the top side, get BRTT some more farm. Let's watch that one more time here, because this is another hook. No minions in the way. Puts it right on the Flame Chompers. Talkers comes in, leashes the ultimate, and boom! Could have flashed, could have healed, but BRTT is feeling himself today.
The synergy between these two champions has been great too. Both times we've seen the death sentences make plays. Immediately, BRTT is throwing those chompers exactly down in the right spot so that as the death sentence expires, the chompers activate in that split second, trap him up.
That's some art right there, man.
It is. It
That's
really
one of those
is.
things where he's putting it in a position where even though the hook is going to yank him a bit, it yanks him right onto him. He's not putting him too far back. A lot of people will put it on like the initial hook location, but the guy's not going to be there anymore. He's going to get pulled slightly.
You just get brought a little bit further forward, and that's always where BRTT is putting them down. Now Robo in the bottom lane having to try to 1v2 defend against these guys, but King with that Blade of the Ruined King puts a lot of poke down.
Yeah, but they're sieging the top side. Talkers once again shoved mid, rotated a little faster here. And that's just an ultimate from Schernfire to actually try and clear the wave.
It's very hard to stop these guys. Brush being laid down by Napon as well makes siege makes siege situations into a nightmare, especially when you combine those with the threat of the Jinx traps, the threat of the death sentences coming out from them. Those brushes are deadly.
Oh yeah, and that's the thing. You put traps in those, you don't know who's in that. That's one of those things that it's harder to appreciate in the game, or sorry, in spectator than it is in the game.
Right, because we have the vision. We can see everything no matter what. But in game, when you're staring at one of those brushes, you don't know who's hanging out inside of it, who's gotten back further. Very difficult.
And you see Dude playing for Lantern. That's the thing. As soon as BRTT's walking a little too far forward, plays for the Lantern there, and Dude gets out. So he's playing that dance with Thresh. Walk forward for the death sentences. Be in sync with your team. So look at that. The death sentence.
This time on the Fantix. BRTT over the wall, not able to get in there for the damage just yet. Daisy going to be on the front line. Redemption coming down. Talker's going to be grabbing some heal from it.
Yeah, and that's a reset. Now you can see Robo goes towards mid, shoves that out. He's trying to pull Vladimir down here because and now they're going to actually use the Lantern for rotation to get BRTT here faster. This is a macro play to try and get damage on these turrets and skirt between the two.
They're doing a great job of it so far. Direwolves struggling to keep up with these rotations, but now BRTT in some trouble. Going to be juggling around, going to be knocked back and taken down. Fantix grabbing the kill on that one. Napon now going to be chased, but immediately saved by the Dark Passage. A good catch from Direwolves.
That's what you got to watch out for, though. I was talking about as soon as BRTT is too far forward, Dude is throwing in the Lantern, but the Lantern was used for the rotation. Then it was a few seconds, I believe, from being off of cooldown, but even then, the body slam flash from Schernfire and then the cast back, you always have to be conscious of it. Chippy, though, going hard.
Going in, looking for Talkers. They're going to be able to find him easily. Talkers just too far forward, couldn't click the Lantern to get himself away to safety, and Schernfire grabs the kill for the Gragas. 4-5 now. Direwolves only down by 1 kill. They grab a couple of turrets for themselves as well. What once was an almost 5,000 gold deficit is down to 1.5.
Yeah, and that's scary. Watch this here. The Lantern just a little bit off cooldown, and then it gets BRTT knocked in. Great body slam flash. They get the flash and heal from BRTT, and the Lantern finally comes through there. But Schernfire definitely making that one work. They didn't have position here where Robo is right now to stop something like that happening. When you have that siege going on in the mid, you have to protect your flanks from people coming over walls, snatching your teammates up.
And we were talking about the mechanical capabilities of Schernfire as a player, about how he was able to finish so highly on the Korean solo queue ladder when he was training over there. That flash body slam into the perfect angle on the cast to make sure you separated BRTT and tossed him right back into the heart of your team, it was all on point.
Yeah, a little bit of a misplay there from BRTT on positioning and timing with Dude. We talked about their synergy, but it was off, and Schernfire, big punish on it, and that totally gets Direwolves not just back in the game, but in a comfortable position where you can take team fights and feel okay with it.
Now they're still down 2K. They've still got to respect the fact that their opponents have had such an extraordinary lead up until this point, up until that last throw. But they have more of a way to fight against it now. Yeah. Hourglass also done for the Vladimir, so he's going to be that much harder to kill in these upcoming fights.
The big thing I'm seeing in these fights or throughout this game of these play-in teams is teleport not being used proactively and staying on cooldown, or I guess off cooldown, for a very long time without being used.
Chippy trying to get himself away. Flash going to be expended by Chippy's there to get away, but if he didn't flash, he was 100% dead, especially with Napon coming around from behind. 22 minutes in, Zirene, and still no Drakes taken either. We normally make jokes about how nobody loves the Cloud Drake, and it just seems to be kind of left at the wayside, but this is extreme even for that.
Yeah. Somebody will take it eventually, I promise.
Maybe before 35 minutes?
You hope, so you can at least see if something else spawns.
Maybe something interesting?
Yeah, but Cloud Drake really hasn't been interesting enough or beneficial enough in these teams' minds to take it when there's so much to do. Direwolves are trying to, kind of stave off the aggression, and Red are trying to be constantly aggressive, and he's going to step on it, waiting for the blast cone, gets over.
Robo gets himself out for
has
now.
Barely enough.
Not going to find its mark.
I think he barely, almost has enough for EQ. He just doesn't have it yet.
Gromp even trying to help.
Right
Robo looking to get himself away if he can. Golden Aegis barely keeping him alive. The crowd's happy to see it too.
That might be a Baron start here from the Direwolves soon.
Robo does have TP.
Well, BRTT's on bottom side of the map. You go Baron. Make the Baron call.
They're paying it. They know right now BRTT has got to haul himself up here as fast as possible. Robo will look to get into the fight as soon as he can with the TP. TPing now up onto the position of the rest of his team. Baron not going down exceptionally fast, actually. The Direwolves going to be forced off of this one.
Oh, now they lose mid and bottom priority, and now they have to go tend to their waves. You actually have to take the back here. Dude might try to stop them. Oh, hit one.
Good hook onto Destiny. Forced to flash away, though.
Mid.
Napon stealing away the enemy red buff. Gonna grab 2 of those, 1 for him, 1 for his Thresh. As BRTT and Talkers are knocking on the front door, and they are not gonna let that sucker stand much longer. They break the base open.
Really good rotation there from Red. They put themselves in such a vulnerable position having BRTT on the bottom side of the map. The Baron call from Direwolves seemed like the right call there. It just had to be made sooner. The fact that Robo got to back and got to TP means that that was definitely one that it was a little bit too late. They had that moment there as soon as they got Robo. And there's the CB
Look
Law.
at that! Robo letting them know what region he's from, telling them all about it as he gets himself out of trouble with yet another well-placed Dark Passage from Diud. We have seen so many saves from this guy this game. It's pretty clear between his death sentences and his Dark Passages why he loves playing this champion and why he's had such success with it.
Yeah, and not everybody gets to play Thresh at that competitive level and feel like it's a comfort champion for them, but this is one where he's been aggressive in lane, he's gotten that first blood, and then he's able to snowball and try to get other lanes ahead. Playing almost a flawless Thresh game so far. It's just his team playing around Lantern timings has been about it. The hooks that he's landing, quite good.
King now farming up in the top side, trying to become this massive long-range threat they need him to be if the Direwolves are going to find a win here. Still down over 3,000 gold. He's got the Runan's Hurricane and the basic Last Whisper completed. Runan's done as well for BRTT, but he's focusing more on raw damage, going for building an Infinity Edge over that Last Whisper first. Then again, he doesn't really have any heavily armored targets to have to shoot. I mean, the Olaf went for a Trinity Force into Spirit Vision.
Yeah, and that's what I think is the kind of the catalyst for this decision to go for the Infinity Edge, which I think is actually correct. He already has crit chance with the Runan's Hurricane. He has enough attack speed. He just needs that little more oomph behind it. And they didn't stack armor. They didn't have a gigantic tank threat. And even for Chippies, the fact that he saw, okay, looks like Jarvan's going for Tiamat into, okay, maybe Bombies, says there's not going to be enough armor on this enemy team. Ivern's not going to build much for a pretty long time. He'll get the Aegis, etc. But nobody else is really going to be stacking resist. So instead of Black Cleaver, goes for the Trinity Force, which has been completed for Chippies. He'll constantly get some Trinity Force procs, but he doesn't have that extra constant movement speed on physical damage, which is the Black Cleaver benefit.
Red Canids taking control over the mid lane for now, shoving out the wave, forcing their opponents off to the side. And remember, if Direwolves makes a misstep, gets somebody caught out and puts themselves in a bad spot, that inhibitor is open in mid lane and can always just be forced down if the opportunity presents itself to the Red Canids.
Yeah, looking for that opportunity. Schernfire has the Body Slam flash.
BRTT remembers what happened last time. Has to be careful about that this time.
Look at this, they're giving up mid right now just to get that wave shoved in. Now they're gonna try to catch the wave. This is what you do when you're dancing for a Baron. Catch the mid wave, clear it faster, clear it on their side. Then you get to run in and you get to go and clear your jungle. You get to clear wards out. But now you can see Direwolves are actually ceding territory and making sure that they aren't completely caught out. It seems interesting, but nice from Chippy so far.
Chippy's gonna be stunned up. Robo makes his way into the fight, gonna be Dark Passaged out. The Flame Chompers prevent any further counterattack from the Direwolves.
Oh, there's Bicep flashing at Dude!
Himself away. Diud gonna be in some trouble. Talker's looking to lay down some damage. He's low on mana. Diud gonna be blown up. Vantage Talker's down. There comes your ace in the hole. A double kill for King. He's able to make it a triple almost. BRTT. There's a kill on Chippy's Destiny in the middle of the cage. Robo looking to lock him down. BRTT is going crazy as King's gonna be shot up and a triple kill. Not quite, a double instead for both the Jarvan and the Jinx. It's a 4 for 2, and the Red Canids find the fight.
That looked like it was gonna be devastating for the Direwolves. And look at that Schernfire walk forward.
Schernfire trying to potentially threaten to steal this away. Napon and BRTT, 2-man taking this down.
Yeah, he has lifesteal, so BRTT can actually take some hits. Robo, not so sure about how many more he should be taking, but they are in that point where the smite should come through into the second.
Eventually.
What are you doing?
Oh, wait,
come on.
Okay, okay. We're gonna pretend that didn't happen because they had an awesome turnaround in that fight and they got the Baron.
Smite for HP, do something, man. It's not like anybody's gonna steal it over the wall. You have complete vision control over the right side of the wall.
You sound like a disappointed parent right now.
I am, man. But this was great from Schernfire, but the cast, not the right angle to knock Dude into his team. Then you see Fantix go into the backline, Protobell onto Talkers. They get the kill onto Talkers with the ultimate. Then Chippy's in the backline. But why are you hitting the pawn? Hit the Jinx. Get on the Jinx. He flashes away. Then it was such a good ultimate there from Robo to put 3 people in there. Man, they were all under arrest. Robo Top's gonna have none of that today.
Robo Top was issuing some arrest warrants in there, trapping 3 different people in that cage, setting it up for the AoE from BRTT, who is now 3-1 and 3 on that Jinx. Infinity Edge completed. Hypercarry mode has been engaged.
Absolutely. 3 items done. You can see for King, though, he doesn't have that crit scaling on himself. He went for the last Whisper. He went for the heal reduction. Interesting, because you have not as many heals on red Canids as, let's say, you have for an Olaf or a Gragas or a Vladimir. So you expect the Executioner's Calling to come through for BRTT soon, but it looks like he has something else in mind, possibly a QSS, to try and outplay some of the potential here from Direwolves to try and get back in the game.
By the way, that Cloud Drake we were talking about went down at 29 minutes and 5 seconds, which means it's literally the only Elemental Drake that's going to spawn this game. Elders from here on out if the game lasts that long, but BRTT and the rest of the Canids looking to put a quick end to this one now that they've got this Baron buff. They've got the 5-man push up here in the top side. Push is going to be laid down, poke being applied, just waiting for that next minion wave before they can put some more damage onto this tier 3.
And a top lane that was really silent for most of the game and had Chippies going pretty aggressive, getting himself killed in the tower dive, ends up being one of the big points of this game. Robo was pretty much left to his own devices in the top side of the map, but then ends up 3-0-3, pretty much the same scoreline as BRTT minus the death. And then you look at Chippies, who has the most deaths on the Direwolves team. He didn't get the type of advantage he was hoping for, and his snowball didn't work out with his attempts. And now we're in a situation where you have multiple lanes being pushed, and Robo in the mid.
Sternfire going to be caught out by the Death Sense. He has already expended the explosive cast, and that is a huge threat, no longer available.
Look at Robo in the bottom left-hand corner.
Robo's
he's drawing a
pulling
lot.
So much aggro right now.
Yeah, he drew so many people towards him. Lantern.
Sentence doesn't even need to be thrown out because Dark Passage keeps him alive, and he is safe. Yet again, the man is a master of escape. BRTT nap on the rest of the red Canids, still looking to pressure onto this team top side.
They can keep going because Robo has teleport. As soon as the next minion comes up, he might teleport into that area. You see, he channeled it back just for fun there, just to see. Once they get the next minion wave up, you expect to teleport if they're going to continue to push.
This turret is very, very low. Remember, the one in mid lane is already down.
Right there. Robo hesitated. It looked like he wanted to go for the bottom wave. Instead, go for a TP. Hit the one that's being actually targeted by the turret. Try to get the turret.
A little bit more damage on that turret will do it.
They're trying to force.
Tier 3 down.
Nice.
Now what else can they find? Red Canids in an awesome power position right now to put their opponents in a very difficult to win situation. Taking down inhibitor number 1, might be able to grab 2.
Well, they got that inhibitor. Gigantic wave on the bottom side of the map. You need to send somebody back, and they won't have teleport. So you clear your mid wave that's pushing at you, and you clear your bottom. Red, pretty much going to be at like a 9,000 gold lead after they pick up these waves, because that is so much CS just waiting to be picked up here between that mid and the bottom.
And Baron buff expires right as they finally break the line, grab the turret, grab the inhibitor. They got exactly what they wanted out of that one.
And that's why that was that do or die situation. Do or die. I know.
Kind of fit in as well. I like that.
Accidents. No, actually, 100% intentional.
Yeah, totally intended.
Yeah, the do or die.
One like that, you just take it.
The do or dive situation. Do or dive situation where they had to force it there, or else it ends up being, okay, we reset. I don't know exactly how long it will take before we get back here, clear out all these waves, but that's great timing for red. Now BRTT picks up the red buff courtesy of the Ivern. And now is in a spot where he has the last Whisper, sitting on a null magic mantle just because. Looks like he said, okay, they have enough armor now. Now's the time. Direwolves, though, they had a lot of talk coming in about how they weren't really afraid of anybody and they were going to beat them. Game 1 does not look in their favor at all at the 33-minute mark.
These guys aren't even Koreans.
It's true. 4 Brazilians and an honorary Brazilian with Dude.
Red Canids in the enemy jungle, removing all the vision, taking control, making sure that they play this one slow and steady. Not exactly just looking to force up, run it down mid, take out the inhibitor, just choking the life out of the Direwolves. Reducing the area they control moment by moment, minute by minute.
And we're seeing some plays from Red all throughout this game that kind of signifies why CB LoL has been such a strong region, right? INTZ was actually #1 team at the end of the regular season, and then playoffs happened. So we're seeing and getting a glimpse of what it looks like in the CB LoL region because they have some pretty good macro play. We saw a 3-man collapse on mid. We saw Dude go for roam plays. The Thresh Lanterns have been on point. Not saying there's a parallel for him in the CB LoL as well, but I'm just saying that their macro game and their closing out of games seems to actually be pretty good. There's been some mistakes, but honestly, at the play-in level, those ones are going to fly, especially when you're that far ahead now.
With this massive gold lead that they're currently enjoying, they're looking to pressure on the final tier 3 turret. Daisy going to be brought out, Schernfire going to be dragged back, bursted down, and taken out. A killing spree for BRTT as the Direwolves now stare down the barrel of a 4 versus 5. Inhibitor is going to be exposed at the very least. This will be a 3-hit game.
And Schernfire had yet to die on this team in this game. Everybody else had really kind of divvied up the gold, and he was the one who hadn't, but right there, kind of the tipping point at his wit's end of how much he can do in this game, whereas the game's just collapsing around him.
3 inhibitors down,
King.
almost impossible to come back from this. King gonna be taken low, Root Caller not finding its mark onto him. Robo pulled to safety yet again. And the Nexus turret's under siege as the red Canids just pour damage into #1. BRTT having to back himself up. Fantix trying to go into the fight, but he's not gonna be finding much of anything.
Robo!
Another cage is gonna lock this down. As the rockets come out, they are flying and everybody's dying. That's gonna be GG for the hometown boys. Red Canids win the first game of MSI 2017 after they kill Schernfire.
Yep, just put a little addendum on there. There you go, one more time, there's the flare.
In unison flare. These guys not only know how to do it, Zirene, they do it with style.
Definitely what you want to see from the CB LoL team that were predicted as favorites out of Group A. Starts off strong. They take down the OPL team Direwolves in Game 1. Get themselves off to a lead in front of that hometown crowd.
1-0 start for the Red Canids. The crowd goes wild for them. You heard them the entire time. Every time there was a big play, every time Robo got away or BRTT went off, the crowd was right there, and that has just got to feel electric for you, representing your team and representing your country like that.
I think that's one of the best words to describe it. It has to be an electric feeling there, being in front of that hometown crowd as the Brazilian team, because they had a great performance that game. The first blood with Dude, moving on to the middle, having a 1v1 kill, I believe, with the Syndra, and then really just kind of snowballing the game and having a whole bunch of kind of collapsing of the map. And I like their rotations during the early parts where they were able to get some tier 2s, forced tier 2s with Ivern and Jinx, and I think that the Ivern is going to be big in this tournament.
Red Canids definitely had themselves a good game, and to get their thoughts on the first game of the 2017 MSI play-ins, let's send things over to the analyst desk.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. Game 1 in the books, and the Red Canids come out swinging here. A couple early kills, snowball into a quick and dominant lead for them. But before we get into the game itself, I want to start with Champion Select, because we talked about the 2 patches coming through, how priority might change, and immediately we've got things like the Jinx and the Thresh in the bot lane, which are not a part of the standard bot lane meta as it has been seen in the weeks leading up.
I feel like this is a part of having so many AD carries banned away. There were a couple of questions that we had, like, hey, if you're the Red Canids and you're going to ban away the Varus and the Ashe, why would you not put more value on the AD carry? And the fact that they put themselves in a bit of a difficult bottom lane, or one would expect it to be difficult, because when you have a melee support like Thresh with a low-ranged AD carry in the form of Jinx, and you go up against a Caitlyn Lulu, expectations are you're just going to get pushed under tower all day, you're going to have a really struggling time.
And to be honest, we were taken a little off guard by that, because the expectation was that they would put a lot of resources into the bot lane, you know, putting resources into BRTT and expecting him to carry with perhaps a winning lane. But instead, they opt to go on the back foot, prioritizing picks like Syndra in the mid lane and the Ivern first pick in the jungle, as we talked about the jungle meta evolving.
Right, and I think it's the kind of thing where sometimes you say, okay, you're our star player, but we don't need to necessarily pick around you. You'll be fine. You'll, just hang on. We'll get you anything that you can get. You'll be fine. And we're going to put some more resources maybe on the top side where they give the Jarvan pick over, like, kind of last pick blind, which we were talking about, and there's some discussion about, like, he's more of a tank player. Why is he on the Jarvan Jarvan. I think it came down to, you know, that the top side for Direwolves likes to play some crazy champions. So Jarvan, though he is kind of a carry matchup, is one of the more stable ones. He can be hard to abuse. He always has his range farming tools. He has a lot of escapes. So I kind of like the idea out of Red Canids here to basically say, all right, BRTT, you'll be fine. We're going to focus a little bit more on the top side.
And while we talk about both of these teams being aggressive teams, the Direwolves here drafting a composition that should give them plenty of priority in the early game to make plays, right? We're looking at a Lulu Kate bot lane of all things, is one of the most oppressive bot lanes out there in the current meta, as well as a proactive jungler like Gragas and a pusher like Olaf. It feels, at least the way the Champions Select is working out, the expectation should be that Direwolves have control or have the ability to dictate the early game.
Yeah, you would expect that when you have Olaf into Jarvan, you have pushing lane top. When you have Caitlyn Lulu bot, you have pushing bot. And while Vladimir into Syndra early on will struggle, it'll get to a point once he's done his first base where he actually does fine in that lane. So in theory, you've got 3 pushing lanes in the favor of the Direwolves, and then you've also got a composition that suits their style perfectly with the 1-3-1. This is the style that has given them so much success in their own region. The only thing that they could possibly do wrong is die in their own lane. That is the only condition with which things could go horribly wrong. And unfortunately for them,
they went horribly wrong.
That is exactly
Things went
what
horribly wrong. We had an early kill in the bot lane. Yeah, we have these replays as well. We've got the early kill in the bot lane, followed by over-aggression in the top lane as well. That'll net a kill.
And so people talk about how oppressive Lulu Caitlyn is, but it's not an all-in lane. If you ever get all-in with this lane, pre-6, you're going to be in a lot of trouble.
And this, of course, is brought to you by Acer. Our first Acer replay of the tournament. We'll have those for you throughout. But again, this hyper-aggression, right? We talk about Direwolves having confidence coming into the tournament, only looking at the Korean teams. Well, if you're going to get to the Korean teams, you've got to get through these ones, and you can't excuse those minor mistakes that hand the game over so early.
Especially when you're picking Olaf and this Lulu Kate, like we talk about both those being good, strong lanes, but they're both lanes also that if they die early or start falling behind, they become pretty much useless. A Caitlyn from behind building Blade of the Rune King, not going to do much. They start getting pushed in by the Jinx Thresh. That's when you know the game has completely flipped on its head, and that's the problem for this draft for them. While even in the mid game we saw some decent stuff, they were just way too far behind.
I wonder if nerves was a part of this, right? Because I feel that getting hit by a Thresh hook is not something that you would expect normally in your own region necessarily, and up in the 1-versus-1, you get a lot of damage down, you evaluate the situation and go, hey, if I was back home, I'd be able to get that kill. Maybe I go for it, maybe I just take the gamble. But the reality is they got punished more than I feel they were expecting. And the fact that the Red Canids very effectively used their lead after they were able to get it, because they took mid at 10 minutes, they took 2 towers in the bottom lane. These guys were snowballing fast and efficiently, and this is the sort of position that the Red Canids like to be in.
I think that's the big thing too, is we even saw that one time Talkers made his way down to the bot lane, got picked off for it, getting a little out of sync with his team, but the idea was there, and you see that Red Canids knows that once they have an advantage, how to use it, because as soon as their bot lane started having priority over what should be a winning bot lane for Direwolves, they started trying to punish it over and over.
It also sets up the day in a very interesting way, right? Because now the rest of the teams in the group have to react to this as they push through the rest of the day, recognizing that, hey, the Red Canids didn't opt for a winning bot lane, and yet they were still able to pull through and get that Jinx to a point where she could take over the game. On the flip side, the Direwolves, they now have to recover, right? They've got to be able to either shake off this loss and say, hey, we're willing to run it back. We have confidence in running compositions like this, and it was just execution, failure in execution, or we need to completely rethink our strategy and how we're going to approach this day of best of one.
I mean, I don't think you can start doubting yourself right now. Even though, you know, it sucks to come out on a loss, it's a long group stage that they're going to be playing in here, a long day ahead of them as well right now. So if you start doubting your kind of play style at the first moment things don't work out, you're going to be in a lot of trouble. So I think even though you can say, oh, maybe this wasn't quite right, I think the idea behind what they're going for is totally in line with what we saw them coming into this tournament, and you can't start veering off that path already.
And the bright side of this as well, in theory, they've gone up against the favorites of the group, right? Red Canids, expectations were that this was the strongest team in Group A, and you just got defeated by them through your own small minor mistakes.
Exactly.
So you can still be confident in the fact that you're still yet to see Supermassive and Rampage play. There's still room for you to grow, and there's still another 5 games for you to pick up those wins.
All right, the tough one's out of the way. It's time to bounce back. I want to take a look at the game-breaking team fight. 27 minutes in, this will be a 4-for-2 in favor of the Red Canids, but off of, you know, aggression from Direwolves. Once again, looking for that pick, looking for the successful team fight. To me, a lot of this was target selection here by Direwolves that could have been better.
I mean, when you're playing against the Jinx, killing the support early on, not really the best idea. You see BRTT, basically untouched over the course of this fight. As soon as he gets a little bit of attention, he flashes out, resets, repositions, and starts going back in once people start dropping, able to turn this fight around. And it's nice to see Sure and Fire able to engage and start a team fight, just not on the right target.
And for me, two of the star players that we saw in this game and in that fight in particular were both Jude and Robo. Because Robo was getting some fantastic ultimates. Not only did he get that great 1v1 outplay, and while he was overextending a couple times throughout the game, he made a lot of decisive plays in a lot of these big fights. And Jude, he soaked up a lot of the damage, and even though he was the first one to die, he was always getting all of his abilities out, and he was always doing exactly what he needs for his team, setting up his AD carry to be the superstar, to get all those kills and run away with the team fight. So I feel like you're seeing the strength of Red Canids' ability to fight in these 5v5 scenarios.
Exactly, and as you mentioned, them probably being considered the favorites in the group start hot here with a first victory over the Direwolves. The question again is, how will these teams respond to what is developing throughout the day? They're going to have a short break here, being able to watch Supermassive and Rampage go up against each other, and then it's all about how you adjust throughout the day. We talk about evolving metas in best of fives. There's also an evolving meta in a group stage.
Yeah, I mean, it's not quite the same thing, but over the course of the weekend, you'll start seeing trends emerge. Maybe now people know, okay, Red Canids love Ivern. If we have any priority on Ivern now, we need to change how we were going to approach this team.
Absolutely. All right, we'll see if Red Canids can carry this momentum from game one into the rest of their games in the play-in stage. But before we see them again, we've got to take a quick break. When we return, TCL Supermassive take to the stage against LJL's Rampage. Don't go anywhere.
MSI 2017 should be an interesting show.